All right, New York Jets. They kick things off with Armand Membou at number 7 overall, the right tackle out of Missouri. They go Mason Taylor, tight end out of LSU in the second round. Azareye'h Thomas, the cornerback out of Florida State in the third. Arian Smith, Georgia wide receiver in the fourth. Malachi Moore, Alabama safety in with their second, fourth round. Francisco Mayagoa from Miami, linebacker, and Tyler Barron from Miami, edge hybrid type of player. So 7 picks for the Jets, and I think this was a solid haul. What were your thoughts on the Jets draft here?
Yeah, I like the top of the draft, and then it lost its way to me more on day 3. But look, Membou's a good pick. You know, their first round pick, I think, could have gone in a variety of different ways. There were people, quite a lot of them, that had Membou as the top offensive tackle on the board. Not on the board, in the draft, like over Will Campbell, because you don't have the arm length concerns and the historical wingspan outlier and all that kind of thing. Plus, you know, we've mentioned before, Will Campbell's tape was not Joe Alt type elite. It wasn't like the very pinnacle of left tackle tape. So there were people that preferred Membou, who himself has a slightly weird body type, but in a different way to Will Campbell's. He kind of looks like a guard. He's almost got the build of a guard, except he has the long arms of a tackle. But I think he can plug right in immediately, be the right tackle. Fashanu from a year ago being the more sort of finesse, dancing, pass protecting left tackle. Membou being a good composite of all of it, power as well as pass blocking chops, the long arms. I think that's a really nice pick. Mason Taylor was being talked about as maybe he could sneak into round 1. He was, I think, the consensus sort of third tight end in this draft. They needed a tight end as well. They'd been mocked to Tyler Warren in that first round. So the first 2 picks being Membou and then Mason Taylor is a really nice combination. And then Azareye'h Thomas, I think that's a steal. I think he was more scheme dependent than some of the other cornerbacks in that, you know, second wave of corners. I'm still shocked he fell to the 3rd round.
Yeah, I think this one's solid all around. The GPA is 13th from Renee. I feel like that's going to be a lot of the consensus here for the Jets. I agree on Membou. Interesting to me that the Jets now have gone tackle each of the last 2 years. Different regimes, of course, but you know they've had to overhaul some things roster wise. I like that they went tackle first. So now you've got Olu Fashanu, who's one of the better pass protecting left tackle prospects we've seen in a while. With Membou on the other side. So that's a nice foundation. Mason Taylor, I just used the word solid over and over and over again, watching his film. Runs routes well, catches the ball well. I think he only had 1 or 2 drops last year. So, and he can run block well enough among these tight ends. So I think he definitely has a path to the field for the Jets. And we, you know, as often as they were mocked Tyler Warren, and I hated it because it's the 7th overall pick, Taylor in the 2nd is nice, but now that you have the tackle prospect in there. And then Azareye'h, the length that they have now, man, if they look, Aaron Glenn and the Lions played a lot of press man, and look, and Sauce has not played a lot of press man, right, but certainly has the body to do it. If Aaron Glenn wants to implement that, I know they brought in Brandon Stevens too, but you know, over the next couple of years, if we're talking Sauce Gardner and Azareye'h as your press man corners on the outside, this is like Seahawks throwback from a decade ago as far as that size and length that they have there.
And that's where I love Thomas is in a press man scheme. You know, we were talking about him maybe being Buffalo's pick in the first round. The concern, or one of the concerns for him, is he only just cleared a 4.6 40 time. That's pretty slow for a corner. 4.6 is usually, that's like your threshold cutoff time. If you can't make 4.6, you're basically not playing corner at the NFL level. So he only just cleared that number. And you could see at the Senior Bowl, his Senior Bowl tape, I thought, was some of the most concerning, if you like, of any of the top corners that went there. There were some plays where he got fairly badly beat up. But there's also a play that showed you what you're going to get of him. There's a rep against Kyle Williams in the red zone where he like uses physicality, you know, squeezes him to the sideline, to the corner, erases him, and then I think makes the interception on a sort of fade towards the back pylon. That's the stuff you can get. And I think Sauce is a pretty good guy to have on the team to, you know, help him along with how to use that length, how to use that size, and maximize what he can do. Obviously, Sauce is a faster player. Like, he ran a 4.4, not a high 4.5, close to a 4.6. But, you know, in terms of a kind of 6'1.5", 6'2" guy, right on the the threshold of 200 pounds. I like him as a fit within this defensive scheme. I think that's a really good value pick in the third.
And very young, not even 21 years old just yet. So that, as a projectable player in the third round, I think that's good. The day three was interesting. I think Malachi Moore from Alabama was just a really good, I say solid across the board. I think he's got starting potential. A little bit like, who was it a couple years? The Bengal safety that came out a few years ago. Productive, but a little bit on the slower side. Why can't I remember names anymore? Jordan Battle. I can't look, guys. I know everybody. I'm getting old. I'm losing names. I'm losing a few names here and there in my brain. It's getting overcrowded, overheated up there. But yeah, I think Malachi Moore, for a team that needed safety help, has a chance to get on the field. I thought they got some productive day three players, including both guys from Miami. Arian Smith is the other kind of wild card. He had drops upon drops upon drops, but he's crazy fast. And the Senior Bowl, I thought, summed up his volatility as well. There were routes where he just fell over and just kept the number of times I was like, Arian Smith fell over again. And then I went, but I missed his good plays when I was live. And then I'm seeing the film and I'm like, oh, he's torching people as well. So he's got some deep speed, but just some serious, drop and just general ball skill issues. Hey guys, just taking a quick break to tell you, hey, just over 50% of you are still unsubscribed to Check the Mic. It helps the channel. It helps to make sure that you don't miss any of our shows. So if you have a chance, hit the subscribe button right now.
Was it Renner who was putting the cutoff point at 10% for a drop rate? If a guy's over 10%, I don't want any part of it. Renner sort of debuted the take this year of like drops are bad because they bum everybody out, which I hadn't necessarily heard before. But I think 10% was his line of like, if the guy's got more than a 10% drop rate, I'm basically out on him. Arian Smith last season had a drop rate of 22%, which is like off the charts horrendous. Like that's basically the worst drop rate you're ever going to see at any level. It's so bad that it's like not workable, right? So unless they unlock some reason for his drops, like they run him through LASIK immediately, and it turns out it was a vision problem or whatever, like he can't play at the NFL level with that level of drop rate. It's just not, it doesn't work, right? You can't have a fifth of every pass sent your way ending up on the turf because we're not playing with that level of margin for error. Like you need to be able to catch more than that. And that's independent of the plays you were talking about before where, there's plays where it just like falls over during a route and stuff. Like those can't happen either because that's a potential missed opportunity. So Arian Smith, blazing speed, blazing, tools. The physical tools are insane, but right now he can't play wide receiver in the NFL.
Yeah, the career drop rate is about 16%. So you said 22 last year. His career is 16. So that wasn't an anomaly. That's about triple what, the average good NFL player will average. So he triples that. But he ran a 4.36 and had a 6.82 cone. Right, the athleticism.
Right now, we're looking at Troy Williamson, right? For anyone that remembers him, the old Minnesota Vikings receiver drafted at 7 overall to replace Randy Moss because he's blazing fast athlete from South Carolina. Only it turned out he could not catch the football. And that's quite a significant flaw when you're trying to replace Randy Moss. Right now, Arian Smith is Troy Williamson.
So as I said, the Jets draft from Renee, pretty much middle of the pack. And I think that makes sense. I think if you're looking at starters, maybe the first 3 players all have a path to the field. Azareye'h, if you want to ease him in, and Brandon Stevens is starting at corner the first year. I see the chat theorizing that Stevens moves to safety. I think you at least have some size and athleticism, size, in the secondary now to play with.
Look, I think that's a false economy, the idea of you just take a slow corner and make him play safety. It doesn't work like that, in my opinion, at the NFL level. His best skill set is as a press man corner.
He said,
and
Stevens.
Those guys, look, Richard Sherman.
I said that potentially moving Stevens to safety.
Oh, Stevens,
not Thomas. Yeah,
right. But I don't think moving slow corners to safety is a good idea. Like particularly not guys who are their best skill is as press man stuff. Press man, if you do it right, you don't have to be fast to do it because the press part of it is what negates the speed. Right now, if you screw it up, you're in trouble. But if you're good at it, the press part of being a press man corner means you don't need to be fast because as long as you stay in contact with the receiver, you're not letting that guy use the fact that he's 0.3 of a second faster than you over the 40.
The entire team building effort for the Jets, I think something to keep an eye on here, Sam. I've mentioned before, I think Justin Fields raises the floor. Your running quarterbacks raise the floor of your offense. And I think we've seen that, right? When the Bears were supposed to be competing for the #1 overall pick, they won 7 games a few years ago. Last year, Justin Fields 4-2 as the Steelers starter. He might raise that floor. They got a pretty good offensive line if everybody's out there and healthy. They might be competitive enough on offense. And if they are going to employ this press man, more aggressive style on defense, now they're more volatile on defense, where if things swing in their favor with that aggressiveness, the Jets could sneak into some games, even though I think the roster's probably a year away, right? I think they need another draft to replenish on both sides of the ball, but they could be sneaky good this year if a few things go their way, just stylistically.
And by the way, that's the other element of this draft. They didn't touch quarterback, right? We had theorized, were the Jets or were they not in the quarterback market? Forget number 7 overall, but were they in it at all in this draft? Would they be a sneaky team to come back and grab a Shedeur Sanders or whatever? They didn't touch quarterback in the draft. They've got some interesting undrafted free agents we'll get to in a second. But their quarterback room is now Justin Fields, the presumed starter, Tyrod Taylor, who's a good backup, Jordan Travis, who they drafted a year or two ago, who's in that same sort of style of quarterback, Adrian Martinez, and then the undrafted free agent they brought in at quarterback is Brady Cook, who, got hurt last year, but I thought had some really intriguing tape in 2023, in particular from Missouri. So they basically, it's Justin Fields' gig. I mean, it's going to be his, and then if they have to bail on him, it's going to be Tyrod Taylor coming in. They did not go to the quarterback well. The other interesting undrafted free agent they brought in is one of the IPP guys. They brought in Leander Wiegand, the giant German offensive tackle, who bench pressed 38 reps at 225 at the pro day, which is like 5 more than anybody else in this draft cycle.
Nice. That's not the super tall guy?
No, not your guy. Not
the guy that's as tall as me, if not taller, depending on perspective.
But Vegan's interesting because he's one of the IPP guys that's got a football background. Like, he played in the European League in Germany before coming over. So he's not like a guy that played rugby 6 months ago and is now trying to learn football. He's got football background. It's just a much, much lower level of competition.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.